race, gender, sexuality, climate. And we're sitting here just criticizing that vision, but without offering a vision of our own. That's why we had that red wave that never came last year. Biden bad is not an agenda. I don't sit here wasting my time on this campaign criticizing Joe Biden. What's the point? He's not even the president, really. He's a puppet for the managerial class, the permanent state. That's the real enemy. That's what if I wage one war as your next president, it is the war on our own shadow government in the United States. That's the war that I will wage, not some pointless foreign war. We use the word America first. I'm an America first conservative, solidly and proud of it. I won't apologize for that. But what does that mean? To me, it means two things. We'll define America first, actually. If we're going to be a movement, this movement didn't start with Donald Trump. It started with George Washington. And it's not going to end with him or me or anybody else. This will outlive us and last for the next 250 years. Here's what it means. It means that the people who we elect to run the government ought to be the ones who actually run the government. That we, the people, create a government that is accountable to us, not the other way around. That's the top job of the next president. That's the top accomplishment that I'll deliver in my first term. We will shut down that administrative state. I'll fire 75% of the federal bureaucrats by the end of my first term. We'll get half of that done in the first year. We'll shut down government agencies that should no longer exist, from the FBI to the ATF to the CDC to the U.S. Department of Education. We're not going to reform them. We'll shut them down and actually return the $80 billion spent through the Department of Education to parents across this country, who then get to choose where they send their kids to school, give them the best possible education they can. The FBI is shutting it down. This isn't just a slogan. I'll tell you exactly how we'll do it. There's 35,000 employees. 20,000 of them are back office bureaucrats sitting in the J. Edgar Hoover building in the back office in Washington, D.C. or elsewhere. They're going home and finding honest work in the private sector. The 15,000 cops on the front lines, we will move them to the U.S. Marshals or to the DEA, which have been far more effective at fighting child sex trafficking rings and the fentanyl epidemic. That's how we improve effectiveness while also fighting the corruption. If I can't work for you as your next president for more than 8 years, which I think is a good thing, by the way, neither should any of those federal bureaucrats who are reporting into me either. 8-year term limits for the bureaucracy instead of so-called civil service protections. That's how you drain the swamp. You got to actually drain the swamp. You got to be willing to get in there and shut it down. Most of the regulations affecting this country, they didn't come from Congress. They came from 3-letter agencies that are making up the rules as they go along. That's unconstitutional. We'll rescind a majority of those regulations so we can drill, frack, burn coal, embrace nuclear energy again in this country. That's how you unlock this economy. Don't start with last year's budget as the baseline, which is based on the prior year's budget, which is based on the prior year's budget before that, all of which is broken. Start with 0 as the baseline, 0-based budgeting, and then ask what's actually necessary. That's how I've run my businesses. It's how many CEOs run their businesses. It's how we need to run the federal government. And I think it's going to take a CEO in the White House to get this done. I'm not a politician. My biggest donor is me. I don't dance to the donor puppet master's tune. Not going to be somebody's circus monkey, a pawn on a chessboard. It takes somebody who's acting on their own conviction to get this done. That's the first part of America First. The people who we elect to run the government will once again be the ones who actually run the government. And then there's a second part of that, which is that those people who we do elect, the sole moral duty that they owe is to the citizens of this country, not another one. This country right here, the United States of America. My foreign policy is clear. I'll keep us out of World War III. We're closer to World War III than we've ever been in my lifetime. Be the next generation whose gun is over your shoulder in somebody else's trench fighting somebody else's war with $200,000 of debt per young person in this country hanging over your head. That ends on my watch. Keep us out of World War III. Declare economic independence from communist China. And then use our own military to protect our own homeland in this country. That's not controversial. That's common sense. Secure our homeland in the United States of America. Something our failed foreign policy establishment in both parties has failed to do. Sending $200 billion of our money to go send it to Ukraine to some kleptocrat can buy a bigger house. That's what it's being used for today. That ends on my watch. We'll use our own military to protect our own southern border, our own northern border too. Protect ourselves against cyber attacks, super EMP attacks. I don't know if anybody is familiar with the risk of that. Could take out our electric grid in a matter of days. Iran can't send us nuclear weapons, or North Korea or China. They could take out our electric grid. They're already invading our southern border. If you had 3 million people from China landing on the western border of this country, we'd call it an invasion. That's exactly what's happening at our own southern border, yet we're inviting it. That's really the risk that we face, is to our own homeland. And we have leaders in both parties that have failed to protect against it. So I don't think that's too much to ask in this country. The people we elect to run the government should run the government. And the duty they owe is to the citizens of this country, not another one. I think that's a president we deserve. And I think right now that's going to take somebody from the outside. Somebody who cannot be captured by the special interests. But I think now more than ever, somebody with fresh legs from the next generation to reach and lead the new generation of Americans. Somebody who has not yet been wounded in that war. And we are in the middle of a war in this country. It's not a war between black and white. It's not even a war between Democrat and Republican, not really. It's deeper than that. It's a war between those of us who love the United States of America and a fringe minority who hates this country and what we stand for. It's the war between the managerial class, the permanent state, and the everyday citizen, between the Great Reset and the Great Uprising. That's what's at stake right now in this country. And it takes a leader to understand that, to lead us to the other side and say, you know what? We still stand for this nation. We're 250 years into this ball game. We're not a nation in decline at the end of our American experiment, as they teach us to believe. No, that I believe we still can be a nation in our ascent. That we will still carry forward what our founding fathers passed on to us. And you all have a choice. We have a choice to make in about 20 days, 15 days here in Iowa, at the Iowa caucus. Just by show of hands, how many of you have participated in an Iowa caucus before? Good. So many of you know what this is about. You have a choice to make. There's two America First candidates in this race. That's Donald Trump and myself. I respect Donald Trump more than the other candidates have, more than anybody has in a political race running against him, because he did a lot of good for this country. He kept us out of wars and he grew this economy, and I respect him for it. We have a good relationship. But I want you to wake up to a reality. Open your eyes. If you think they're going to let this man get anywhere near that White House again, think again. They are selling us the rope today that they will use to hang us tomorrow. Do not fall for their trap. Last time around, it was a man-made pandemic, and then a tech-rigged election, and worse. That's what happened in this country. So this time, they're already dropping the breadcrumbs. It's not that complicated. You go see from Colorado to Maine, and I'm doing whatever I can to stop this. I've said I would take my name off the ballot in Colorado and Maine and any other state that takes Trump's name off that ballot. And I think this could be a solution, at least to that line of attack, as long as every Republican does it, because then those delegates don't count towards who ends up being the nominee. What do the other Republicans say? Well, we need to collect the delegates. They're just puppets, just like many of the Democrats are. But at the end of the day, that's just one of many lines of attack. By hell or high water, it's a little uncomfortable for me to say this, but these people, they will stop at nothing. And I mean nothing when it comes to keeping this man away from the White House. And what they want to do is have that play out in about 4 or 5 months, so that whichever Trojan horse they want, and I have a good sense of who that is at this point, it's far more devious and insidious than you think, have them trot right into the White House. Do not fall for that trick. You got the future of America First standing right here. And the truth is, America First doesn't belong to one man. It's bigger than Donald Trump. It doesn't belong to me. It belongs to you. The people of this country, to we the people. It didn't start in 2016. It started in 1776. George Washington was the first America First conservative. It is up to us to make sure we don't squander this as the last generation that watches this country meet its demise. That will not happen on my watch. So we respect and love the man because he got this fight started. But it is our job to finish it. So I'm asking you to do something a little different than what you thought about doing a few months ago. If I wasn't in this race, and that was the only choices that I had, I'd be going for Donald Trump too. But it hurts me to see something with clarity and then watch us walk into a slow motion train wreck. Do not fall into their trap. And if we do the right thing, then yes, I am confident. And I think this is our last time I could tell you this. I don't think I could tell you this in 4 years. I don't think I could tell you this in 8 years. I'm not sure in 8 years we have a country left unless we fix this right now. I mean that. I think next year we're skating on thin ice. I'm worried we might not have a country left on the other side of it. But I think this is my last chance to tell you this. I think we can still be a nation whose best days are actually still ahead of us. That's why I'm in this race. Thank you guys for coming out. I appreciate this. Take a couple of questions from you guys, and then we'll make our way. Sir, you give it to you.
Thank you. I want to applaud you for speaking to the actual core of the issues, to have the word truth behind you, to say these things, you know, the words that are printed in your bulletin. It's crazy to me how controversial some of these ideas, even the word truth. Mm-hmm. Even in a red state, in a red town, in a red county, the word truth is controversial.
Yep.
And I guess maybe that takes me to the one thing that you said that I'm not sure I agree with, which is that it's only a vocal minority that we're up against. Mm-hmm. Some of us have been dealing with this problem in our local churches and our local communities. Yeah. And I'm a business leader like yourself, mm-hmm. and I understand the importance of a shared narrative.
Yep.
A shared story that we can all get behind, something that we can all agree with despite all of our differences. Mm-hmm. And what concerns me is that it's like thin twine at this point.
Yeah.
The things that we actually agree with. And so I guess my question to you is, you can, what does it take to bring the other side along with? Mm-hmm. Because without them, it really
we don't have a country.
Won't go far. You're just delaying the inevitable, which I think is your critique of the Republicans, right?
It is.
We're just pumping the brakes here.
Barely.
And so what does it take to get everybody on board, back with the truth, back with some semblance of a belief in the system itself? And then I guess my follow-up question is there something missing from the system itself? Are we dealing with just a temporary sickness with classical liberalism? Or is there something missing from the founding documents that should be added? Something that ties to the sacred or transcendent?
Deep question.
Sorry.
I like that. I appreciate that. You know, these pamphlets you're holding in your hand, they're modeled after Thomas Paine's work, Common Sense, what they handed out to like leaflets that started the American Revolution. I think we live in a 1776 moment right now. I think this is one of those moments where we call ourselves conservatives, so I'll answer in kind to your question. What's the root of that word? It means we conserve something. What happens when the things that we're looking to conserve have themselves disappeared? We have to create. That's the moment we live in. And this is a special challenge because the nature of conservatives is historically we're not radicals, right? The people who hold these value sets are people who are conserving, used to conserving. Progressives tend to have just as a personality attribute the ability to be radical. You may disagree with what they're putting up. Well, of course we do. But the spirit that they bring is one of creation. They're creating the wrong thing, and we're busy conserving. But now we've gotten to a point where in many cases the things that we're looking to conserve, the basic ideals on this, I mean, look at one of the things I say there are two genders. If I walked in here 20 years ago and told you that, you'd say, what the hell is this guy talking about? Is he crazy? Why is he telling me this? And yet today that's controversial. There are some rooms they'll say leave because that's too controversial to say. So this is the essential, put your finger on it. This is the essential dilemma for the conservative movement. What happens when the things that we wish to conserve have themselves, many of them started to disappear? We have to recreate. And that's why the older generation of a classical Republican or conservative can't get this done right now. It takes a revolutionary. Thomas Jefferson, he was 33 years old when he wrote the Declaration of Independence. And he invented the swivel chair while he was at it, actually. See, that's the kind of spirit we need. I'm 38. I'm the youngest person ever to run for U.S. president as a Republican. There's a reason why these revolutions, these revivals, are often led by the next generation. And I think now more than ever, it's going to take somebody with fresh legs, as I said, to reach that new generation. That's the work we have cut out ahead of us. So if we're spouting off slogans we memorized in 1980, we're lost. We're done. Because the challenges we face are unique. The threats to liberty are different. And we're starting with a blank scaffold. And so that's my answer is how do you fix the system? We raise it to the ground in many ways, and we build a new one from scratch. But I don't think we need new documents that aren't in the Constitution. This is the head start we have. It's doubling down on what our founding fathers gave us. Even Thomas Jefferson, who I brought up, what does it say? We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. Creator's already in there. The divine is already in there. Their Creator with certain inalienable rights, among these life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Even those opening words, we hold these truths to be self-evident. I'll tell you a thing about those words. In Thomas Jefferson's original writing of it, what he actually said was, we hold these truths to be sacred and undeniable. That's what he said. Now, Benjamin Franklin was kind of his editor, and he said, we need to secularize this a little bit. And the funny thing is, Thomas Jefferson wasn't even a traditional Christian. He was a deist. So there's many layers to our own history. So we don't need to reinvent our history or reinvent our principles. We just need to rediscover them and create them in a modern American landscape that has lost those founding principles. The Declaration of Independence is the greatest mission statement ever written for a nation. The Constitution is the best-known operating document we have that is the greatest guarantor of freedom known to human history. Double down on that, and yes, I'm confident that we have our next 250 years still left ahead of us. But it takes a leader who's a little different than just a defender and a conserver, but somebody who's a creator, in this case, a recreator of what our founding fathers put into motion. That's why I'm in this. I'm America first, yes, but right now, to put America first, we have to rediscover what America is. And I'm confident I will do that in a way that nobody else, certainly in this race, and I believe I'm in this race for a reason nobody in this country is going to be able to do. We each have our own God-given gifts. Every one of us does. And it is our duty to use those God-given gifts to do what's right in the short time we're given. So I'm going to do my part in that. I'm going to ask every one of you to do yours. I'm not letting you off the hook. It's going to take parents and pastors and teachers, city councilmen, mayors, state legislators, everybody doing their part. But I'm going to do mine as your next president, to swear an oath to the Constitution and keep it, and to revive our missing national character in this country. It's a 1776 moment, and if we embrace that, then I'm confident we're still going to have our better days to look forward to. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. Right there, sir. Thank you.
I don't want to be rude, but
It's allowed.
Do you know enough of the right people to do what you want to do?
I think so. I think so. I've taken on bureaucracies my entire career. I took on the bureaucracy of Big Pharma, built a biotech company that got 5 medicines approved in areas that Pharma had abandoned. I took on BlackRock, building up the leading anti-ESG prominent competitor to BlackRock. I started a firm called Strive that competes directly against BlackRock and State Street and Vanguard. Success right out of the gate. So yes, I do believe that I know how to take on bureaucracies and win. Many of those people aren't going to come from Washington, D.C. I mean, if the people there were going to get this correct, or people from our existing politics were going to get this correct, we wouldn't be where we are. A lot of them are going to come from the outside. My ideal vice president, though he can't do it, would be a guy like Elon Musk. He can't do it because he wasn't born in the country, but the spirit of that. That's what it's going to take. a revolutionary spirit in this country. And one of the areas where they duped Trump is they said you couldn't fire the existing people who are already there because of civil service protections. Read the law. Those civil service protections do not apply to mass layoffs. And mass firings are absolutely what I'm bringing to the D.C. bureaucracy. So clear that deck and we're going to be just fine. I appreciate that. Right there, sir. And then we'll go here.
So I'm a public school teacher, so I apologize, but a school question. What do you envision like the school system looking like?
Yep.
You know, at elementary through even college, and then how do you implement like the truth message and help?
Appreciate that, man.
Our students kind of learn kind of what you've been talking
What grades do you teach? I'm just curious.
High school.
High school, nice. So I'll give you the quick and dirty. I mean, we could have a whole day on this. I want to shut down the head of the snake, the Department of Education. $80 billion back to parents across this country. Thank you. We're looking for a Secretary of Education who has a one-day job. So if you're willing to take a week off of work, come and shut down for me, and then come back here, I'll take that. Because it needs to be somebody who enjoys doing that. The $80 billion, we're going to return that to parents across this country so they can choose where they send their kids to school. I want public schools to compete against private schools. I personally believe, and you may have a different view on this, I don't think the teachers' unions have served anybody. I don't think they've served the teachers. I don't think they've served our students. I think that that's one of the things that holds back public schools from private and charter schools. I'd imagine an education system without that. If you're going to teach it in the classroom, let's put it on the internet. I think that's one of the ways we fight the poison. Transparency, it's amazing what it does. Sunlight is a pretty good disinfectant. Even many of the schools where parents demanded to get the information to put on the internet, they give them redacted documents. Well, if you're too ashamed to tell parents what you're actually teaching in the classroom, it says that you probably shouldn't be teaching it at all. Now I think we need to revive civic education. I think every high school senior who graduates from high school should be able to pass the same civics test that every immigrant has to pass in order to become a voting citizen of this country. I don't think that's too much to ask. That's how we get this country back. You got to know something about a country, to care about that country, to revive national pride. And I think that's a lot of how we defeat this poison. We can't just play whack-a-mole, because otherwise it's going to be something else that pops up. We got to dilute it to irrelevance by answering who we are. Revive that missing national identity. That's how we get this done. And as it relates to college, look, I went to four-year college. I'm not going to sit here and bash that. But my path can't be the only path. There have to be multiple paths to the American dream. The Department of Education, again, it subsidizes four-year college degrees to be a gender studies major in California or whatever, but nothing for people who want to be a welder or a mechanic or a carpenter or a builder, people who would be better at that than I would be, who also deserve a path to the American dream, especially when we have a shortage of those skills in the United States. And so we'd stop tipping the scales in favor of college education to say that everybody has their own path. And even for those colleges, the cost needs to come down by stripping the managerial class out of it. The proliferation of the administrators at these universities of what's driven up the cost. And that across the board as well. And I think that this is at least a bird's eye view. You asked for my vision of what the educational system can look like. That's an educational system that goes back to being about the achievement of our students and reviving actual civic pride in this country. So hopefully that gives you a sense. They're going to drag me out of here, I think, pretty soon. We'll give you the final word, ma'am.
My name's Emily. I'm from Clear Lake.
Oh, well, okay. We'll take them together. You say something and you say something.
Okay. I'm from Clear Lake. I classically homeschool my kids.
Good for you.
My son, Ethan, he's 18.
Hey, you can vote. 18. That's good. Good to see you, man. Thank you for being here.
I appreciate that you came in here speaking straight to me. I am on the fence. Am I going to caucus for Trump or am I going to caucus for you? Been a big Trump supporter. You gave me some good reasons to support you over him. However, you've got truth behind you, goodness, righteousness. I believe you stand for those things. How do we not stand for our guy who's getting just ripped apart? I mean,
yeah.
How do we not go caucus for him? How do we not vote for the guy that they're trying to tear apart? It feels wrong to abandon him.
I understand that feeling. And
because they're going to come after you next.
Of course they will. Of course they will. Eventually, at the end of my 2 terms. But I'll tell you this: it's It's laying the ground. It's laying piece by piece. So I give Trump. I have something going for me that he didn't have, which is the Supreme Court he gave us. So he lays down the Supreme Court. Now we fire 75% of those federal bureaucrats. You don't know what happens? They're going to sue us. I win 6-3 in that Supreme Court because of the one Trump gave us. Then the guy comes after me, doesn't have his hands tied in the same way, because that's now codified in judicial precedent. So I understand the emotion personally. It's not about Trump and it's not about me. It's about this country. And it's our duty to this country this time not to fall into this trap. I mean, I think we know in our hearts. And you be careful not to say certain things as they speak themselves into existence, but they're just not going to let this man do it. We know this. It's staring us in plain sight. They've laid the traps for us and we've fallen for them before. This is our time not to fall for that trap. And I believe that I will be able to take our America First agenda further than Donald Trump when I'm in that office. So I'll make you a commitment. He and I have a good relationship. I will take him as my most important advisor and mentor. The man's going to be 80 years old. He shouldn't be put through this hell again. I mean, that's the truth of the matter. It's unjust. But it's about this country. And I think nobody else is going to be able to reach it. Is it Ethan? What was your son's name? What was your son? Ethan? I think it's about Ethan's generation, about my son Karthik's generation. I don't think that Donald Trump or anybody else in our movement is going to be able to reach and lead this next generation, be around to lead this next generation in a way that I will be. And we owe that to our country. We owe that to our founding fathers. We love the man because he got this started. It is our job to finish it. He rolled over that log and we saw what crawled out of that swamp. I am bringing the pesticide. I mean that. That's what it's going to take, is using the law and the Constitution. And each of us has our own gifts. Trump has his own gifts. I have mine. I think now we need a president who, yes, is an outsider and can break things, but also who understands the law and the Constitution to use it in our favor. They duped him. And the guy, I mean, this is of all of his, he has many strengths. That's not his strong suit. They duped him. They told him you can't do all of these things. They told him you can't end birthright citizenship because you need a constitutional amendment. Yeah, that's a traditional wisdom. Read the 14th Amendment. I swear an oath to the Constitution, I'm going to keep it. I'll end birthright citizenship on day one because that's what the 14th Amendment says. We'll start mass deportations tomorrow. They told him there's only 6,000 ICE agents. Read the law. It allows you to deputize local law enforcement to do it if necessary. That's 1 million people. We have mass deportations done in this country by the end of 2025. The wall is not enough. They're building cartel-financed tunnels underneath that wall. Commander-in-Chief, I don't need Congress. Negotiating with Congress over the wall, forget that. We'll move our military to the southern border. I get to do that as our commander-in-chief. So it takes a president now who understands the law and the Constitution. You know, if Thomas Jefferson were in this race, I'd say go for him. Right? Because he's got even more of that than I do. He wrote the damn thing, right? So, but he's not around. And I think it's going to take somebody who channels that 1776 spirit right now. And somebody who at least this time will get to the finish line. This can't be 50.1. We don't have a country left if this is 50.1. This has to be a landslide. A landslide minus some shenanigans is still a landslide. It's still a win. And if you think about it, we're in a war. I think we are in a war right now. The general you want in that war is somebody who has not yet been wounded in that war. Just think about picking yourself a general. 2 good generals. One's 80 years old, wounded 4 times over. Pick the one who is not yet wounded in that war. That's what I'm asking you to do. It's not for me. Why am I going to put myself through this? Why did Trump put himself through this? It's for the country. But I think we owe it to our country to make sure that America First and MAGA does not die with Donald Trump. It can't. This movement has to outlive him. It has to outlive me. I would say it has to outlive even Ethan. This is about the next 250 years of our country. That's why I'm asking you to do what I believe is the right thing on January 15th. I thank you for being here. I promised you a word. They're like, you say yeah, thank you.
I too am from Clear Lake. Hi, Emily.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
I too am on the fence between you
Good.
sit there. Thank you for taking a stand and speaking the truth, even when it's a diverse issue, and sometimes it's hard for people to hear it, so we need to hear the truth.
Yeah.
So thank you for answering that. So I'm going to take it to a local issue.
Okay.
Since you addressed my other issues. I want to know what your stand is on the CO2 pipeline.
Oh, I'll tell you this one.
And for them using an unconstitutional.
Oh, I'll tell you this.
Would you please?
Oh, I'll tell you this, yeah. So I've been, and this is one thing I want to tell you too. I'm the only candidate in this race, the only one, without exception, Trump or anybody else, who has been able to clearly tell you that thing is unconstitutional, they're wrong to use eminent domain across the land, and that I will end delivering those federal subsidies to anybody who's using eminent domain unconstitutionally. That includes this pipeline. You don't want that crap in your backyard. Many farmers say there have been leaks in Mississippi, sent people to the hospital. Now they're saying you don't have a choice. They're going to use eminent domain to build it anyway. That's unconstitutional. It's a violation of private property rights. And I'll put an end to it as your next president, not just for Iowa, but for this country, bending the knee to this climate change religion that is a hoax because it has nothing to do with the climate.
The pipeline's already been stopped.
Well, one of them. The Navigator. Now, got this. Yeah, Navigator's been stopped, but I know a lot about this. The Summit one is not. So, but I think regardless, it's not just about this state. It's about the principle for this country. Because if they can use eminent domain to get CO2 out of the air and justify eminent domain for that, they could use it to take your cow, take your combustion engine vehicle, and leave a $50 check in your mailbox. That's the Fifth Amendment to this country. I've been traveling the state with Steve King. The reason he's been coming with me rather than other candidates is because I'm the only one that had the guts to speak to it. And so this is what I'll say in closing, and this goes to the choice you have to make. I'm the only candidate in this race who can say certain things, that I'm against the CO2 pipeline, that the climate change agenda is a hoax, that Ronna McDaniel needs to resign as the chairwoman of the RNC, that I'll pardon every peaceful protester from January 6th. On my first day in office, I'll do it because it's the right thing to do. Why am I the only candidate who can say these things? I'm not bought and paid for, and the answer is, you only get to be an outsider once. I'm the outsider this time. I'd rather speak the truth and lose than to win by playing some political snakes and ladders. And if you want somebody who's actually going to shut down the deep state, actually speak truth to power, then vote for the person who will speak the truth to you. Make the right choice, guys. Thank you. God bless you. And God bless our United States of America. Good seeing you, my friend. Good to see you guys. Yeah, sure. Are you an Air Force veteran?
My husband.
Your husband is? Thank you for your service to this country, my man.
But, okay, so I agree with you on America First.
Yep.
I get that. But I'm concerned about the isolationist.
I'm not isolationist.
Because it feels like that.
No.
When you
Actually,
talk
I'm the
about
only.
that.
I'm the only
It didn't
candidate.
work
I'm
for
the only.
Roosevelt.
Yeah.
It
And it
didn't
didn't.
work
No.
for FDR.
Isolationist is different than America First. America First means you look at every conflict through the prism of American interests.
Right.
So I'm the only person to say we would defend Taiwan if they invaded Taiwan because that relates to our interest.
Where do you stand with Israel?
So here's with Israel. Here's the right answer for Israel. The real answer for Israel is we have to diplomatically stand for their right to defend themselves without getting in their way. That's what's happening today. So that's better for Israel and better for the U.S. Now, when I said that a few months ago, people said, is that not a pro-Israeli view? No, that's the most pro-Israel view you could have. In fact, if you look in Israel now, the most pro-Israel voices in Israel are saying what I'm saying, or what I was saying a few months ago. Because Biden will give them a small check, but then you have to Monday morning quarterback what they do. Armchair backseat quarterback what they're doing. Backseat driver at Israel. That's not good for them. It's not good for us. So give them the diplomatic support to say the UN or the EU or the US isn't going to second guess what you do. They have the right to defend themselves. Stand for that. That's what they really need, not some paltry check.
I'm just saying
that's
that
the answer.
It's coming across like,
Yeah, no,
I'm going to abandon my allies.
Oh, no.
And so
No.
we
No.
just need
And
that.
I'm a George Washington America First conservative. He said in his 1796 farewell address, he wasn't an isolationist either, but he was America First. So look through every conflict through what advances the American interest. We have allies for a reason. But our sole loyalty is to this country, is what I would say.
Yep.
This is a father, my own duty is to my family. Does that mean I don't care about the neighbor's kids? Of course I do. They're friends with each other. They go to school together, right? But my moral duty as a father is to my family. My moral duty as your president is to this country. Hope that addresses your question.
Excellent.
Thank you for
Thanks
asking
so
it.
much.
I appreciate it, guys. Thank you. Thank you, man. Thank you for seeing you, man. Good to see you. I appreciate that, brother. Thank you, man. We'll get a quick one, and then you're gonna come to their next. Tell people we're going next. I think we're about 20 minutes late. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Good to see you. How are you?
I'm your groupie now.
Can you bring him? We gotta.
Come here.
But still sign that after.
He will.
Thank you. I appreciate
He's a
it.
businessman, too.
Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate you.
Thank you.
I gotta go see the most articulate smartest
Oh my
man running
God.
for president.
Thank you,
So
man.
nice to meet
I
you.
appreciate that. Thank you, guys. Come to our next one. Come to our next event, guys. I'm proud of you, Ethan Northwood. Come on in. Quick selfie. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks for coming again.
Spread the message, man. I appreciate
You're
it.
reinstilling my faith in America.
Thank you.
I was a county auditor for 20 years.
Oh, you were?
Yeah.
Thank you for your service, man.
I'm the chairman here.
It's going
for
to take
County.
It's going to take all of us doing our part. You're doing yours.
Thank you.
I'm going to do mine, all right?
God bless you.
Spread the message here. You know the
Okay.
right people. Thank you, guys. We'll see you.
Thank
you. Spread the
Hey.
message in this community.
We'll see you next Thursday.
Thank you.
I'm Julie
excited.
Billings. I'm Chair
Oh.
Sarah Gordo.
Oh, you are?
So, yes.
Awesome.
I talked to Colin.
Awesome.
Next
Good.
Thursday.
I'm excited,
Okay,
guys.
we'll
I'm
see you
excited.
next-
Spread the message, guys. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Spread the message in this community.
I feel like an idiot. You definitely do not have no iodine deficiency.
No, but I still have it, though. I still have it at home in Ohio. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Thank you. Keep spreading the message for us, brother.
I am.
That's huge for us.
Vivek, thank you for
Good seeing
speaking
you.
the truth.
Thank
I'm
you,
Tony
man.
Bureaucratic. I live in D.C. for the most part. I've gone to
Okay.
school at Georgetown for the past 4 years, and I'm getting my master's there right now.
Congratulations, man.
What
Proud
I
of
see
you.
there a lot is fear in the young conservatives to go out and demonstrate.
But you know what? That's what they need to become. This is our 1776 moment. We can't just be historical conservatives. We got to root for progress. Own that message. Pass it along, man. We'll see you. Yeah, it's converting people. Trumpers in that room. But